I wanted to put this video together to go through my Lead Well framework in its entirety. My other videos are slowly working through the content bit by bit, but I think it's a worthy time to give you the bigger picture that I work through with my clients that helps them give them the practical tools, the strategic clarity, and the leadership systems to run their business with confidence while staying mentally strong and grounded. You're running a business, you're doing the shifts, solving the problems, showing up for your team, and somehow still falling behind. You tell yourself that you just need a better system or more hours or a quiet week to catch your breath. But what if the real problem is the structure that you're working from? The Lead Well approach is my answer to that. It's not a quick fix. It's a system designed to help you lead with more calm, clarity, and energy without burning yourself out in the process. This video is the full breakdown of what that system looks like, how it works, and how it is already helping business owners like you stop surviving their business and start living through it. So what is the Lead Well approach? The Lead Well approach is made up of 4 key pillars. Look inward, establish rhythm, align your energy, and direct with clarity. Look inward is about building clarity on who you are as a leader and what you actually need. Establish rhythm is about creating structure and systems that help you feel in control of your week. Aligning your energy is about protecting and replenishing your mental, emotional, and physical energy, while direct with clarity is about leading your team with strong systems, clear boundaries, and more trust. Each one connects to the others, and when even one is off, the whole thing starts to wobble. That's why most coaching programs or tools don't stick. They only fix one piece of the puzzle. The Lead Well approach looks at your business, your leadership, and your life as a whole system. And that's what makes it different. I didn't come from hospitality originally. When I opened my venue, I was learning on the fly. I had passion and vision and lots of drive, but not much structure and absolutely no clarity on what it would cost me. For years, I pushed through, service after service, week after week, always telling myself that overwhelm was normal, that it would calm down eventually, and that exhaustion was just a part of being in charge. But eventually I hit a wall. The panic attack started, the brain fog crept in, I stopped sleeping, I stopped enjoying my own business, and I stopped recognizing the person who was meant to be leading the whole thing. That was my turning point. And it didn't start with a new system or a strategy. It started with asking, what do I actually need from my business? Not what the business needs from me, not what my team expects, not what my customers demand. What do I need for this to be sustainable? That question became the foundation of Lead Well. Pillar 1, look inward. Let's start with the hardest one first. Not because it's complicated, but because most people skip it. Look inward is about creating clarity at the personal level. Clarity about what you value, how you lead, what you're tolerating, and where you're actually headed. If you're feeling tired all the time, pulled in every direction, or just going through the motions, it usually starts here. And if this pillar is off, nothing else will work for long. You might build a new schedule, but if it doesn't match your actual needs or boundaries, it will just fall apart. You might introduce new systems, but if your mindset is still wired for guilt, people pleasing, or perfectionism, you'll override them the moment things get tough. Looking inward means stopping long enough to ask, what kind of leader do I want to be? What does success look like for me? Not just financially, but emotionally. What habits or expectations am I carrying that no longer serve me? These aren't airy-fairy questions. They're the questions that dictate every decision you make, from how you handle conflict to whether you take time off, how this shows up for you. If this pillar is out of balance, it often looks like feeling lost in the role, constantly reactive, rarely proactive, doubting yourself, even after years of experience, feeling like you've outgrown your business or that it's no longer yours, holding on to tasks out of fear that things won't get done properly, avoiding decisions because you're worried how they'll affect everyone else. Does this sound familiar? This isn't a business issue, that's a clarity issue, how we start to change it. In coaching, this is where we slow things down so we can speed up in the right things. We use tools like reflection prompts, pattern tracking, and mindset audits to help you see where you're stuck. We name the pressures that you've been carrying that you didn't even realize were optional. And we start creating space to think again, not just act. We also start using the Reset Ritual template, one of the most deceptively powerful documents in the toolkit. It's a 5 to 10 minute weekly check-in that helps you answer what worked for me this week, what drained me, what do I want to change. It's not a checklist, it's a pattern recognizer. And most people within 2 to 3 weeks of using it realize they've been building entire weeks around other people's priorities and haven't stopped to ask, what they need in a very long time. Before we move on to the second pillar, I wanted to offer you something practical. If anything I've said so far is landing, if you're realizing how much you've been carrying without clarity, go to my business wellness quiz. It's free, it takes less than 4 minutes, and it will show you exactly how your current leadership rhythm stacks up across the 4 lead well pillars. You'll get a personalized score and an instant breakdown of what's working and what needs more support. I built it to help you see the full picture because change starts with awareness. And this quiz gives you both. The link's in the description, bookmark it or hit pause and take it now. When you don't take time to look inward, you end up running the business based on what's screaming the loudest. You become reactionary, and in hospitality, where there's always noise, it means you're always reacting. Looking inward gives you the power to pause and ask, what kind of leader do I actually want to be? When that clarity is missing, it shows up everywhere. You second guess your decisions, you feel guilty for setting boundaries, you try to be everything for everyone until you snap. But when you start this process properly, when you define your leadership values, your personal non-negotiables, your vision, not just the business, but for the life inside of it, something fundamental shifts. You stop chasing balance and you start building alignment. You begin to show up as the same version of yourself across the week, not calm one day and reactive the next. And your team feels that shift. Your environment starts to reflect that shift. That's why in my coaching, we don't start with goal setting. We start with grounding, because until you've anchored it in your own clarity, every decision is going to feel shakier than it needs to be. Pillar 2, establish rhythm. Once you're grounded in who you are and what matters to you, the next question is, how do you actually make space for that in your week? That's what established rhythm is all about, because let's be honest, this industry will eat your entire week if you let it. Hospitality doesn't have clear edges. The line between your time and everyone else's time gets blurry fast. You're doing stock while replying to WhatsApps, you're talking to a rep while watching the rota change, mentally rewriting the floor plan during your only break, and when people say just plan better, it feels like a joke, like plan what? But here's the truth, even in chaos, rhythm is possible, and rhythm is what gives you room to lead instead of chase. What's happening without it? When this pillar is underdeveloped, you feel it. It shows up as constant firefighting, no buffer between urgent and important, to-do lists that never seem to shrink, late night panics about everything you didn't get to, that exhausted what did I actually do today feeling. And over time, that creates a kind of fog. You start thinking that you're the problem, that you're not productive enough, not focused enough. But the real issue is that you're operating without structure. You're trying to lead from a treadmill. This is where the tools come in. In my coaching, this is where we introduce one of the most used tools in the entire program, the weekly wellness and operations planner. This planner isn't a generic productivity template. It's built for hospitality leaders like you who need structure without rigidity. Inside it, we map your week, not just around your time, but around your energy. We define your peak energy hours, your recovery zones, your core leadership blocks, your rest windows. Yes, they're just as important. It helps you see where your friction is and gives you permission to shift things to suit how you actually work best. We also use it to surface what I call the invisible work, those moments that eat at your energy, but they never make it down on paper. Worrying about a team member, prepping mentally for a hard conversation, holding 5 half-finished tasks in your brain while you run the pass, saying yes when you wanted to say no. That stuff matters because your brain doesn't distinguish between formal tasks and unspoken ones. It just knows it's overloaded. This is also where we introduce the time audit, a hospitality specific version that I've built and refined through coaching. It's a simple but powerful process. For 5 to 7 days, you track what you're doing, when you started, how long it took, how it made you feel. And we add one crucial detail that most audits leave out, the emotional weight. Because a task that takes 10 minutes and leaves you drained for 2 hours is not a 10-minute task. Once we have the audit data, we start looking for bottlenecks, energy leaks, repetitive interruptions, tasks you thought you delegated but hadn't, only I can do this problems that keep everything on your shoulders. The audit often becomes a mirror, not a judgmental one, but an honest one. And that clarity, it gives you choices, real ones, not just do more, try harder, but do differently, protect differently, plan differently. Building rhythms that flex with you. A key part of this pillar is accepting that hospitality is unpredictable. That doesn't mean you give up on planning, it means you build in flexibility. We structure your week assuming that something will go off track, and then we buffer for it. You learn to build margins around key events, protect white space for thinking, resting, and recovering, batch the kind of work that keeps getting delayed, set aside time to look ahead instead of trying to catch up. Suddenly your week isn't just something that you survive, it's something that you shape. And when your team sees that, when they see a leader with rhythm and not panic, they settle, they rise, they meet you there. This is the turning point. This pillar, established rhythm, is where most of my coaching clients start to feel the shift. They go from chaos to clarity, from constant guilt to intentional trade-offs, from reaction to rhythm. And the best part, it's sustainable because it's not about being perfectly productive. It's about knowing what really needs your energy and letting go of the rest. This is how we stop chasing balance and start building capacity. Next up, pillar 3, align your energy. Now we've laid the foundation. You've looked inward and you've clarified who you are as a leader. You've begun to build rhythms that work with, not against your energy. But there's one thing that we haven't addressed yet. What happens when life still hits hard anyway? That's where pillar 3 comes in. So far, we've looked inward, we've built rhythm. But now let's talk about what happens next. Despite your best efforts, things still get hard because they will. Align your energy is a part of the framework most people feel before they can explain. It's the part that shows up as, I can't think straight. I'm snapping at people I care about. Everything feels heavier than it should. I know what I need to do, but I can't seem to do it. And here's the key. That's not a time management problem. That's an energy alignment problem. The myth of being tough enough. This industry has a way of making us feel like the stress is our fault. Like if we were just better at it, more resilient, more focused, more experienced, we wouldn't feel this way. But no one leads well when they're overloaded. No one makes clear decisions when their nervous system is fried. No one feels like a calm, present leader when they haven't had space to breathe in a week. And most importantly, no one heals from that by pushing through harder. This pillar is about your nervous system. I know that might sound like well-being fluff, but stay with me because this is actually one of the most practical parts of the entire approach. This pillar is about understanding your internal engine. It's not just about how much time you have, but how much capacity you have. You might be hitting your goals on paper, showing up every day, pushing through shift after shift. But if your body is in fight or flight mode 24/7, you're not functioning, you're surviving. Symptoms of misaligned energy. This part of the coaching often unlocks deep realizations for people because they know something's wrong, they just haven't had a language for it. Let me give you a few examples of how this might show up in your life. You keep reaching for coffee or sugar just to feel baseline awake. You get disproportionately emotional over small issues. You dread days off because they don't feel restful. You cancel personal plans because you can't people anymore. You struggle to focus even when you finally have time, and you can't make decisions that used to feel easy. This isn't weakness, it's a nervous system overload, and it doesn't fix itself by accident. This is where the reset ritual comes in. One of the key tools we use in coaching is a reset ritual template. It's a simple structure that helps you build customized micro moments of recovery into your week. We break it down into 5-minute resets, daily rituals, weekly recovery anchors. These aren't bubble paths or generic self-care routines, they're strategic, specific to your energy patterns and built to help your body downregulate. The goal isn't perfection, it's awareness, because once you can name what drains you and what refuels you, you can start to design your week around actual recovery. Emotional load does not equal weakness. Another thing that gets missed here is emotional labor. You might not be physically tired, but if you're the one holding the team together, managing everyone's stress, being the buffer for customer complaints, worrying about people's personal lives or trying to run a business, you're carrying emotional weight, and most of it is invisible. That's why in coaching, we always come back to this phrase. If it costs you energy, it counts. Even if it doesn't take hours, even if no one sees it, even if you feel guilty for needing recovery. You don't need to justify your fatigue. You need to honor it and start managing your energy like the asset that it is. What energy alignment looks like. Let's paint the picture. A leader aligned in their energy starts the week with a plan for energy and time, knows what drains them and builds around it, has real recovery rituals in place that actually work, says no earlier before resentment creeps in, leads more calmly, even under pressure, doesn't feel guilt every time they pause, And here's the surprising part. When your energy is aligned, your team benefits too, because leadership energy is contagious. If you're grounded, calm, clear, they feel it. If you're wired, resentful, fatigued, they feel that too. And what's beautiful is that when you do start to do this work, you don't just lead better, you create a healthier environment for everyone around you. You might be thinking, sure, that sounds nice, but there's no space in my life for recovery right now. And I get that. That's probably the most common thing that I hear. But that's exactly why this pillar matters. Because burnout doesn't happen all at once. It happens in layers. You skip rest once and then you forget what rest even means. You override boundaries once and then they start dissolving. You push through one crisis, then you live like everything's a crisis. That's why this part of the lead well approach exists. Not to fix you, but to bring you back to yourself. The part of you that can lead well, live well, feel well, even inside this chaotic industry. Pillar 4, direct with clarity. This is the final piece of the puzzle, and it's often the one that finally gives people their time, calm, and confidence back. Because after you've looked inward, established your rhythm, and aligned your energy, there's still one thing left: how clearly you communicate what you need. This pillar is called direct with clarity, and it's where leadership truly takes form, not just in how you speak, but in how you guide, empower, and protect your team and yourself. Leadership without clarity creates chaos. Let's be honest, most of us end up managing reactively. We say yes to too much, delegate too little, and assume people know what we're thinking. We let poor performance slide because we're tired. We rewrite rotas ourselves because it's easier than training someone to do it properly. We cross our fingers and hope that eventually people will just get it. But hope is not a leadership strategy. Clarity is. And when you don't direct with clarity, everything you built in the first 3 pillars starts to unravel. This is where boundaries and systems live. Directing with clarity isn't about becoming militant. It's about creating safety and structure for your business and your well-being. In this pillar, we focus on things like clearly defined expectations, simple systems for delegation and follow-up, boundaries around time, roles, and emotional labor, team empowerment without abdication, and communication that's kind, consistent, and clear. Because vague expectations breed stress, and stress leads to micromanagement, confusion, and resentment on all sides. The Delegation Matrix Worksheet. One of the cornerstone tools in this pillar is the Delegation Matrix Worksheet. It's a simple grid, but it creates powerful realizations. Together, we identify what only you can do, what you're still doing that someone else can do, what tasks you've delegated but haven't fully let go of, what no one's doing but should be. This isn't about dumping work. It's about clearing mental load, building trust, and allowing your leadership to grow through others, not just brute effort. And when we do this live in coaching, it often reveals the root cause of overwhelm that had been hiding in plain sight for months, from hero to leader. A lot of hospitality owners don't realize that they're still playing the hero. They're the fixer, the closer, the go-to person for everything. It feels noble until it doesn't. Until you're the bottleneck, until your team stops growing, until the success of your business depends entirely on your stamina. That's why direct with clarity is the bridge between your personal growth and your business stability. Because when you stop trying to do everything yourself, you can finally become the leader that you were meant to be, not just the hardest worker in the room. Who you become in this pillar. A leader who's directing with clarity is someone who protects their time without guilt, says yes and no with confidence, creates clear channels for feedback and support, empowers staff with structure, not just pressure, spends more time leading and less time firefighting. And from a wellness perspective, you sleep better, you stop ruminating about conversations that haven't even happened yet, you get to go home and actually switch off because the systems are carrying what used to sit on your shoulders. So let's step back and look at what this whole thing gives you. 1, look inward. You build self-awareness and reconnect to your why. You gain clarity on what matters to you, not just as a business owner, but as a human being. Number 2, establish rhythm. You structure your week for calm, focus, and energy protection. You stop reacting to chaos and you start leading from intention. Number 3, align your energy. You notice what drains you and start to actively recover. You lead from a centered nervous system instead of one that is in constant survival mode. 4, direct with clarity. You communicate clearly, lead with boundaries, and empower others. You become the calm, confident leader that your business and life truly need. And when all 4 pillars are working together, you stop being the business, you lead the business. The power of structure with soul. The lead well approach works not because it's rigid, but because it's rooted in real life. This isn't corporate coaching. It's built from the floor of a hospitality venue, from 14-hour shifts, from burnout, from panic attacks, and from survival mode. I didn't read this in a book. I lived it. And now I use it to help people like you lead well without losing yourself. If you haven't taken the business wellness quiz yet, this is your sign. It's free, it's quick, and it's seriously revealing. You'll get a personalized score across all 4 pillars so that you can see where you're thriving, where you're stretched, and where your first shift needs to happen. Because once you can see it, you can change it. Take the quiz today and start turning the lights on in areas that have felt foggy for way too long. If and when you're ready to go further, this is the structure that we work through together. But instead of guessing what you need, we tailor it to what actually is weighing you down. We adapt the rhythm to your week. We name the emotional labor and remove the hidden drains. We design systems that work for your venue and your team. We clear space in your head, not just your calendar. It's not therapy. It's not business consultancy. It's leadership coaching that includes you, because you matter, not just the business, you. You've probably been carrying more than anyone realizes. You show up, you solve problems, you keep the lights on. But if the cost has been your peace, your sleep, your health, then something's got to change. Not because you're failing, but because you finally realize this doesn't have to be this way. You can run a great business and feel grounded. You can lead with strength and have some rest. You can care deeply without burning out. It starts by using the lead well approach to rebuild the business around a healthier version of you. You deserve that. You matter too. Don't forget that.